I work with real estate agents about building their personal brands, and showing up on social media is a huge part of building your brand. And I always have agents who like want the most polished, perfect video with the perfect transitions, with the music, with whatever, all these things and the captions and all that. And I'm like, you're not even there yet. You're trying to like be the Ferrari, and we're starting in a Civic. Like, let us just start right
100.
here with the Civic, and then we can build to that, right?
Yes.
But no one likes to be a beginner.
Okay, this is Breakthrough with Chris Medellin. Thank you guys for joining this episode, and I couldn't be more excited for my guest today because I got to tell you the story about how we met before we jump into it. So I am all about branding. I think branding is probably the most important thing that someone can do that is out building business, connecting with people, helping people. And what people don't realize is that every single person listening today has a brand. You just don't know it yet. And your brand is basically, in my opinion, your reputation. And so I am here with one of the coolest people. She is a brand strategist with Ryan Serhant's team. She's the owner of Elevate Design Studio. She has a podcast called Not Nice Clever. It's about branding, marketing, money, and manifestation. She's a speaker. She's a powerful Latina, and she is a former teacher turned entrepreneur. And I couldn't be more excited to have Candice Carcioppolo. I am excited. No, I'm going to do it again. I am excited to have Candice Carcioppolo. And it's so funny the way I wrote this. I wrote CAR space CEO space Polo. So thank you for being here today. I'm so excited to finally get you in studio live in Gilbert, Arizona. Thank you.
I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So how did you end up in Arizona? Because you're like living in San Diego now?
I'm in San Diego now, and my husband was just like, hey, I'm going on a business trip. Do you want to Scottsdale? Do you want to come? You want to tag along? He's like, I'll get the hotel with the pool if you come along. And I was like, okay.
I think every hotel, even the shady ones, have pools in Arizona. But how cool is that? I mean, think about where you were. You and I were talking about this earlier, but think about like a few years ago when you were a teacher. You would have never been able to just jump on a plane at the drop of a hat and be in Scottsdale, Arizona.
And we were trying to get away from the gloomy weather in San Diego.
Yes.
And so we're like, Scottsdale, where it's 97 and sunny. Yes, sign me up.
I love it. And it is so beautiful out here. And by the way, it's so beautiful in San Diego. But, so a couple things that I gotta tell you. So you and I met back in July at the Forward event. And it was Neil's second Forward event. And so for those of you that are listening that want to go to an amazing event, DM us because you got to be at the Forward event. It's one of the coolest events that I've ever attended, but it is a place to connect with real estate professionals, mortgage professionals, anyone who's trying to elevate their brand. Yep. This is like the who's who. It's one of the industry events that everyone goes to because it's so powerful. And I think you and I were talking about it. You got so many clients from going to this.
So many opportunities from attending. And I've been going to Neil's event since it was a much smaller event in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I feel like it's like a class reunion when I go to this event because these are like my people. They're my friends. Yeah. They're the community that I look to and who have helped me grow. And so I just literally love going to these events.
The best way to describe it for me is like, I feel like my Instagram exploded when I walked in, right? I mean, it's like the first day when I was picking up my badge, I was walking through and I think you had to go upstairs to get the badge or downstairs. I can't remember. Yeah, maybe it was downstairs. And then like, I just was running into so many people that I had never met before. So if you're following people on Instagram, they're most likely going to be at this event. And I'm giving a free commercial to Neil on this, but because I believe in this event so much. And then, I'll turn this over to say, it was his event that really inspired me to create an event in Arizona called Breakthrough. And as I went through this, somebody was telling me about these moments that you have when you break through. And it's that moment right before breakthrough that the best way to describe it is if, you look at when water boils at 212 degrees and the moment at 211, that's for me what this podcast is about, is that moment right before you break through. And somebody said this to me and it stuck. Right before breakthrough, there's a breakdown. And I wanted to talk to people who have really broken through in their career and are on the upward swing of something amazing, and you came to mind. And when we met, I remember us meeting. I was walking through Breakthrough, and you guys came up because you knew the lending giant. I was with
Love the
Bryce,
lending giant,
and he and you guys were talking, and I was like, well, "What do you guys do?" And you said, "Well, we work for Sirhan's team." And I was like, "Oh, I already know I'm spending money with them because you guys just look cool. You were doing amazing things, and then here we are." Less than a year later, sitting in studio
Look at that.
for a podcast, right? So
I
how
love it.
cool is that? And so thank you for coming. So let's jump into this. The name of the show is Breakthrough, and you've been on an amazing journey. You were, a teacher,
Yeah.
who then decided to go build your business. So let's talk about that journey and what that was like, and the breakthrough moment for you.
Absolutely. So I taught middle school English and history for 7 years. And I loved it until I didn't. I was in my early 30s, and I was thinking, I think I'm just too bougie to only make this much money for the rest of my entire life. Like, I already had my master's degree. I was literally in my early 30s going to wait on a 3% cost of living raise every year.
Yeah,
I was
you
like,
were you
this
you
does
knew it
not,
was
this does not seem right. Like, I
it's
work
not right.
my ass off, right?
But it's not right, because I think
Yeah.
you have the teachers have the hardest jobs,
Right.
Because I know my kids, and they're assholes.
Imagine 37 of them in a classroom times 6 periods a day, right? Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And so I just came to a point where I was like, this can't be it for me. And I was a single woman, and I just knew that I wanted more for my life. I wanted to live in a certain neighborhood that I could never afford. I wanted to travel. I wanted to just feel like I had freedom with my finances, and I knew that teaching wasn't going to give me that anymore. And so what I did was I ended up working for Teach for America, and I became a coach of teachers. And I raised my income a little bit with that job. And then I had a little bit more flexibility and freedom, so I kind of felt like my own boss in that sense. I made my own schedule, and that felt really good to me. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I like this. I get to make my own schedule, help teachers. I still get to see the kids regularly. And what I was doing was helping them backwards plan to their goals. So a teacher had goals for their students, and we would set them, and we would figure out what actions you need to take to make those things true. And I really enjoyed it. And then 5 years in, I got to the exact same place that I was teaching. I was like making the max amount of money I was ever going to make. And there I was with another income cap. And I felt like it was bullshit.
Yeah.
And
were you mad?
I was pissed. Yeah, I was pissed. I was pissed, and I was reaching the point of burnout again. I didn't feel valued. I didn't feel like there was any opportunity for me. And, I'm in my 30s, like mid 30s at this point, and just thinking this, again, cannot be it. And what happened was some of the teachers, because all teachers have side hustles, reached out to me and were asking me, hey, can you help me like you do in the classroom, but with my business? Like, I have a side hustle yoga business. Can you help me set goals for that and figure out what things I should do? Or, I have a t-shirt business. Can you help me with that? And I started doing a little bit of that. They'd kick me down $50, $100, and it'd be, okay, cool. Like, I have a little bit of extra cash, whatever. And then I started realizing, I think I could actually do this on a bigger scale. And what if I picked my own clients that I worked with? Because at that time I was assigned teachers, and sometimes we vibed and sometimes we didn't, right? That's normal. It's like, what if I always got to choose my client? What if I always got to choose how much it cost to work with me? What if I always got to make my own schedule and I never had to answer to anyone else? I was like, that sounds like the dream. And I probably was naive at the time because I didn't know enough about business to know what I was about to enter. But I had a passion, and I knew that I couldn't go on how I was living anymore. So I made a 6-month plan, and I literally wrote down like every day on a piece of paper, and I crossed it off. I was like, I'm leaving my job when I get to the end of this paper. Like, I'm just going to leave my job, and I'm going to figure out how much money I can save so I can live for 3 to 6 months and figure it the fuck out.
Was that moment, was it equally as exciting as it was scary?
Oh, yeah.
For you?
Yeah, both of the things were true. Everyone was like, you're insane. Like, this is a cushy job, Candice. Like, you're dumb, right? Like, don't do this.
And you have like, at the time you're single, right? So
I'm
it's
single.
not like you're married, you're
No,
by yourself.
right.
You got bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
got bills. Like, no one's going to pay my rent,
Yes.
like I wasn't I definitely had taking care of myself, right? And I was like, if this doesn't work out, this is going to be really embarrassing. But also, I can always be a teacher again.
You could always you had a fallback plan.
Yeah, like I could always be a teacher again. And so I think once I made that decision, the universe conspired to show me every single reason why that I was on the right path.
Yes.
So during that time when I was like crossing off the days, I remember one of the things that was really eating at me or scaring me, and it sounds stupid to me now, but back then I was like, I don't have a place to meet my clients because I can't just like bring them to my house. Mm-hmm. That's weird. And I was meeting clients at Starbucks, but essentially every client would end up crying at some point because, you know, it's
an emotional process.
Yeah, it's an emotional
you're figuring
process.
Out your values. You're figuring out all these things.
Exactly. You're figuring out these things about yourself and discovering things. And I was like, dang, I don't want to be the bitch that's making people cry in Starbucks every day. Like, I need to figure out what's going on, right? And I was hosting events with my best friend at the time, and it was called Vegas Women Connect. And it was an opportunity for women to connect in Las Vegas and connect both professionally and personally. Mm-hmm. And so we've been hosting this event, and one day a neighbor came, and I didn't know she was a neighbor at the time, but she was like, hi, you know, I'm Suchi. I live right here. And I was like, I live right there, and realized that she like basically lived right behind me. And we started talking, and she was like, Candice, I heard you talk about yoga. You like to go to yoga? And I was like, yeah, I love yoga. And she was like, well, if you ever go, I'd like to go with you. Like, okay, but it was like a passing, fleeting kind of conversation. Well, she texted me the next day, and she's like, are you going to yoga today? And I was like, yeah. She's like, can I go with you? So here we are in the car going to yoga, this girl that I met a day before at my networking event. And we're driving there, and it's a longish drive for Vegas. It's like 20, 25 minutes. And so we're driving, and she's a little older than me, and she's in the car, and she's like, Candice, I feel like I just have to tell you this. I really think you're holding yourself back. I was like, bitch, you're in my car. I'm driving you to yoga. You're telling me? Like, she's like, I just feel like you're holding yourself back. Like, you're not, like, living up to your full potential. And I feel like there's something else for you. And this is, you know, I've been there it goes. I've been tallying off these days. And she's just, like, going in and hitting all the sensitive spots, right? And I just met her. So I get to yoga, and I'm pissed, and I'm in yoga, and I'm like mad. Like, who does she think she is? She doesn't know anything about my life. Like, I'm thinking all this stuff during yoga. I leave yoga, and I'm still mad, which is not supposed to be the case, right? This is
crazy. Yeah, I love this.
And so we're in the car, and she starts up again.
I love that. I love her.
Right? And we get almost home, and I'm just like silent, and she's just talking away, and she's like, I don't know why, Candice, but I feel like I need to tell you this. This is your time to blossom. And I'm like, okay, whatever, just go home. Mm-hmm. And so dropped her off. I went home, and I was pissed. And my best friend calls, and she was like, hey, so-and-so called, and they want to meet with us because they're opening a women's co-working space in Las Vegas. And since we have the networking event, they want to just talk to us about how they can connect with our network. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So we go to the meeting, which was like pretty much the next day. We go to the meeting, and we sit down with these two beautiful women who are like, we're starting this co-working space in Las Vegas. And I'm like, oh, an office space in Las Vegas. I lived on 11th Street at the time. This was on 7th Street.
Perfect. Walking distance.
Walking distance, yeah. And so I'm sitting in this beautiful office space, and they're like, we just really admire what you're doing for the community. And we know that you're well connected to women here. And we just want to offer you this space for you for free for the next 6 months, as long as you tell your friends about it. And I'm like, what the hell? When I got to the office, Chris, the name of the office is Bloom. Which I was like, Interesting, Bloom. Suchi told me Blossom. And I sit down, and they're like going over their presentation, like they're like little pitch to us to tell the women about it. They wanted us to know everything about it. So they start telling the origin story of where the word bloom came from. And it came from this quote, and I might fuck it up, but it's basically something like, and the day came when the risk it took to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. And I was like, I'm getting chills right now just telling the story because Suchi just told me about blossoming, and I'm sitting in this space, a free office space for me because, I don't know, Suchi told me. Because I'm telling the universe that I'm getting serious, and the universe is like, oh, if you're getting serious, I'll get serious too. and showed up for me. And after that, I just felt like things were just unfolding and the path was being, I don't know, being lit up for me.
So amazing.
It's crazy. And it turns out that one of the owners of the co-working space, Shelly Wolford, she has become one of my best friends and dearest friends. And she's just been an amazing support in my business. And that was, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago.
6 years ago. What a journey. Now, I think we all need these people in our lives that are going to say things to us that are going to make us think.
Yeah.
My job is I connect with a lot of loan officers in the marketplace, and I'm talking to them, and I realize sometimes that I believe in them more than maybe they believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And, it's a heartbreaking situation because sometimes I see it, but they're not willing to put in the work that it's going to take to do it. But I met with a guy yesterday who's I want to say I can't say because then I'll kind of out him, but he is probably one of the nation's top loan officers, and he was like terrified of a camera, terrified of a microphone, terrified of being, and he has no social. It's such a mystery who this guy is, but he's amazing, but no one knows him. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I see so much for you. Like we could just turn you up, bro. Like, and it's heartbreaking sometimes because I've been in situations where I think I piss people off, like your friend, because they're like, who do you think you are? You know, I'll think a meeting went really well, but then they don't call me back because they're like, I didn't like what you said. I don't like the way it made me feel. But I do think that we need those people in our corner that are going to push us to think and see ourselves. I want somebody to see me in a higher capacity than I see myself.
Absolutely.
And I need to hang out with those
important.
people.
Yeah.
And I think that is a form of manifestation is, I always say this, if you're struggling with a piece of your business and rather than like, this is what people do. They keep getting beat out on a deal. Mm-hmm. And so they call other people who are getting beat out in deals for validation.
No.
And so what you got to do is you got to call the people that are winning.
Yes.
And call those people and see like, how are you doing it? But I think our brains tell us to stay behind. And it's like, we don't like this discomfort.
Yes.
We want you to stay put where you're at because you're good. We got to push ourselves out of that. And so you did this because you were actually finding an excuse about office space.
Yeah.
Which plenty of, things would have worked. But you were like, but what's amazing is how this opened up. And like, I started getting emotional when you were saying, because I knew where the story was going to go. And I was like, I love acts of kindness. Mm-hmm. They had no idea you needed this. No idea. They were like, they were like, somebody in a room said, you know what, we're going to pitch her.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get clients from her because she has a good network. And you were like, I need this. And it was just a perfect match.
A perfect match.
So I love this. This is such a great story.
It is. And I think that sometimes we seek out someone to validate us staying where we are.
Yes.
Because then that makes us feel like we're doing the right thing instead of seeking out people who are going to be like, nah, you're holding yourself back and you're not living up to your potential. And I'm not here for that. Like we don't want to hear that. And so we seek out the people who are going to be like, yeah, you're right. The market does suck. Yep. No one's selling houses right now. No, that's not even the case. Right. And so I think it's really important to have people who believe in you and who maybe are a little bit removed from the issue. I remember when when Serhant first reached out to me and they were talking about me working with them, they reached out to me. They found me on Clubhouse. And I remember it was like telling my best friend that they wanted me to like do this like exercise to demonstrate my knowledge of branding, right? And I looked at it and I was like, I can't do this. She's like, what? She's like, you talk about this every day. What are you talking about? You can absolutely do that.
You were intimidated by the Serhant name.
Yes, that's the only thing, right? That's it.
Throw that out the window, yeah.
100%. But my best friend was like, no, girl, you're fucking doing this and you know everything about this. Yes. And so stop holding yourself back. And so I went through the exercise. It took me hours, like probably like 4 hours I did it, which it shouldn't have taken me that long, but I was just overthinking it. I was like, oh, Serhant, oh my gosh, And the reality of it is that I am a branding and marketing expert. Mm-hmm. This is what I do. This is what I talk about every single day. But there's still moments in my life when I get nervous, or I'm like, am I as good as that person? And I have people in my corner all the time who are like my biggest cheerleaders, my biggest hype people, who are like, what are you even talking about? Like, you're just making stuff up now, right? At this point. And I realized that at every level, you still have those feelings.
Yes.
It doesn't go away.
Yes.
And at least it hasn't for me. And maybe it'll go away for 6 months, and then it comes up again when I'm on another stage with a different person, right? And I just want to talk about that because I think that people maybe look at someone like you and say, well, Chris isn't afraid ever. Chris knows exactly what he's doing 100% of the time. And the reality of it is that's not true.
It's 100% not true. Like I was so nervous, like coming into work today to do this. Like I'm like, I can't let her down. Like she shows up big. Like I can't F this up, you know? Like I was even thinking about like we were supposed to do our podcast and you're like, we weren't prepared. We had to redo it because I didn't do my homework on it. And I was like, and I'm like literally going to talk to her 5 minutes before and we're going to jump into this podcast and do it. But like, there's all these nerves that go into it, but you have to overcome that.
You just have to keep
just
putting
gotta plow through.
Yeah, you have to put one foot in front of the other. And, you know, I work with real estate agents about building their personal brands, and showing up on social media is a huge part of building your brand. And I always have agents who like want the most polished, perfect video with the perfect transitions, with the music, with whatever, all these things and the captions and all that. And I'm like, you're not even there yet. You're trying to like be the Ferrari, and we're starting in a Civic. Like, let us just start right
100.
here with the Civic, and then we can build to that, right?
Yes.
But no one likes to be a beginner. And I think that people,
no one with money, who has money wants to start as a beginner,
right? But you have to.
You have to. I mean, like, and by the way, when I stop to scroll, especially with your stuff, it's when you're traveling and your selfie style. I want to see that.
Yeah.
When I see somebody in front of a camera reading a script, I can tell immediately you're reading a script.
Yep.
It's not about you,
right?
And I'm not into it. Yeah. You know, in my opinion, like take that script. Because a lot of times these are good scripts, so make it about you. Make it like how it...
Insert your story,
Yes, and so like... But that's the thing. I mean, I think all you need is your phone. And the record button, and boom, let's go. So I totally agree with you on that.
It's about bringing people into your world. And sometimes when we're sitting in front of a camera and we have a script and we're like counting on the videographer to make us look excellent, which I love a videographer to make me look excellent. Yes. But if that's the only thing you're counting on and you're not actually working on yourself and your energy and your storytelling and your experience, it's going to come across not as great as it could.
Yes.
And so I don't even know how we got on this content creation thing, but essentially letting yourself be a beginner and letting yourself go through the discomfort of feeling like you're not the most knowledgeable person in the room is so important. It was really funny because I went to 2 events kind of back to back, and my husband, when I got home, was like, how are the events? And I was like, oh, they were great. And he was like, well, how did you feel like amongst the people? And I was like, oh, at this event, I felt like I was like top of my game. Like everyone there was like looking at me. It was great. And at this event, I felt like, I need to learn some more shit, you know? And he was like, wow, I love that. And I was like, I love that because I know I'm in the right rooms when I'm learning from other people, right? And
you absolutely crushed the room, not to interrupt, but I have to say this, you crushed the room at the Sirhan event.
Thank you.
Well, a couple of things that I think that I would learn from as a speaker, you walked through the room and got to meet everybody before the event.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize you were a speaker there until you got up on stage. And then I was like, the energy was already there. You had already pulled in the energy. You knew what was going on. You knew the people in the room. So it becomes a lot easier to get in front of them and talk them through. But you did such a great job at the event, energy-wise. I mean, you need to be on more stages. And so I hope anybody listening that wants to hire a really good speaker, a powerful Latina speaker, this is who you get is Candice, because I thought you crushed it on that. So let me bring it back because I want to talk about branding. I want a good chunk of this to be about branding. We're good on time, and I want to finish out this breakthrough story. So you make the transition, and then you finally do it. Like, I want to know, what was it like the day that you signed. And then I want to go back about your yoga partner. What was her name again? Suchi. Are you guys friends now?
We are friends. I adore her.
Yes.
I don't talk to her as much as I should, but she's amazing. Obviously, she helped me through a difficult time, and I didn't know that I even needed her, but somehow she knew.
That's good. Yeah. I love that. I love people like that. I love that she was just watching you, because I believe she watched you from afar before she shot her shot as a friend. And I'll talk about this, and I'm going to try not to get emotional, but my daughter, I think I told Kat this, but who's your podcast partner. When I heard your first podcast, I loved it, and I immediately sent it to my daughter, who is 26, and she's in Title in Dallas, Texas. And I was like, I wish you would hang out with people like this, because she's had such a hard time finding female friends and strong female friends. And I've always, like, growing up, even when she was growing up, I always wanted her to have like a mentor, you know, in her life that was outside of her parents, right? And she never had that. And so I was like, I wish that you got, because you're Latina, she's Latina. Like, I was like, you need to have friends like this, like listen to more podcasts like this. But, you know, when you think about the what you did with the podcast and how you guys are so confident, and that's like such like but you had to go through this moment of doubt, and like, you know, you had to surround yourself with other powerful women. What was it like the day that you like literally like said, I'm done?
I'm done.
And then like you wrote the letter, the resignation letter, and then you moved into the unknown.
Yeah, well, it was crickets at first. Like, I had maybe a few clients, and then
how many
I was
clients?
getting
Do you
nervous.
Remember how many you had?
I don't remember, and I don't want to say a number that's inaccurate, but not many. I know that.
Okay.
But
shit got real.
Yeah, shit got real, and honestly, I lost a lot of friends, which I don't think that a lot of people talk about. But when I left the teaching profession, anyone in education, not anyone, but a lot of people in education felt like I thought I was better than them, or I thought that, you know, teaching was beneath me. And that wasn't the case at all. I have obviously the utmost respect for teachers. I was one, I understand, but I just knew it wasn't for me anymore. And it wasn't till probably really recently, Chris, like maybe last couple of years, when people started seeing me on stages, seeing me travel across the country, seeing me with Ryan Serhant, seeing my podcast, for them to be like, damn, she did the damn thing, you know? And it took a long time, and I did lose friends, and that was a challenge. And I just want to say that, because if you're in this season of your life right now where you are maybe outgrowing your circle and you're feeling guilty about it, I think that I want you to know that you have the power of choice to choose your community. And sometimes we do outgrow friends, and that doesn't mean we don't love them and wish them well. It just means that we need to be intentional about our limited amount of time here on earth, and intentional with what messages we want to hear and who we want to spend it with, because you will only go as far as the people you surround yourself with.
I got to jump in on this, because this is so true. As you start to elevate, you start to outgrow.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember I didn't finish college, but I went to a few courses in college, and I had a sociology class. And I remember writing this paper about how everything I need in my life is within a 5-mile radius. I was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. And I believed when I wrote that paper, I will never leave a 5-mile radius of my house, right? I have lived in Florida. I've lived in California. I've lived, you know, Arizona and, you know, Columbus, Ohio, like weird places, right? But I've lived all these different places. But at that moment in my life, I was like, I'm only going to live here, and I'm going to stay with these friends. And someone said, you're going to outgrow this, and I hope you outgrow this. And I remember that being a scary feeling for me. But what you find when you start to just take a step further is that friends will start to hate on you. Family will start to hate on you, especially, like, this is the weirdest thing in the Latino culture, because I talk to a lot of Latinos and Latinas, and I was talking to one of the, and I actually had her on a podcast, but she was saying, like, her family was like kind of hating on her, or like, you know, they're like, oh, you're too good now because you're now making money. And it's like, there's this feeling of like, people want to hold you back.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And it's funny because when I first started posting, and you might've gone through this, but I knew who was hating on my stuff.
It's the people you know.
It's the people I know, right? And I'm like, that's so crazy. And I'd get the text message like, bro, will you stop posting? Like, why are you hating? Like,
exactly.
One of my buddies that I would literally, he just texted me yesterday like, hey, bro, will you help me in my videos? And I was like,
okay.
Yes, I will help you with your videos. All the hating and shit talking you made, I will help you with your videos. But I think at the end of the day, when you outgrow your friendships, it's sad, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because what you're trying to do is hang out with people. I tell my wife, we have to hang out with people who are 10 steps ahead of us.
100%.
Whatever our goals are, we got to be around the people that are making us, it's not to leave the people behind. There's a place in our hearts for them, but I got to be friends with the people that are 10 steps ahead of us, because that's where we're going to learn. And that's where you can, grow. And
see that it's possible for you. I think that sometimes we're like, oh, well, that person, oh my gosh, they're just like special and different and like whatever. And then you become their friends and you realize, no, literally they're just like you, except they did shit even when it was hard.
Yes, 100%.
And they're going to hype you up and they're going to tell you that it's possible, and they're going to be like, I don't know what I'm doing either. Yes. And then you're realizing, oh, okay, I can access that too,
100%. Yeah, I mean, so this journey that you've been on has been so like eye-opening, like for me to hear your story and to watch you continue to grow. Like a year ago when we met you, you've catapulted. So money-wise, how are you doing? You don't mind me asking. You talk about money.
We good.
You're good.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you're like winning and you're not afraid to talk about money. You're not afraid to.
I want to talk about money because I remember, there was a time in my life when I thought, making $70,000 was going to be amazing. And now I just literally make however much money I want to make, Chris. Mm-hmm. And I charge however much money I want to charge.
So good.
And it wasn't always like that. And there's still moments when I'm like, it's okay, it's time to change my prices, where I get a little nervous. Kat was actually talking about this to me the other day because I did her branding. And at the end of it, she was like, Candice, you really need to raise your price. Like, I'm glad I did it at this price, but the quality of what you gave me is this next level. And I have a little bit of like hesitation, but I know she's right. Mm-hmm. And it's just insane, like how that has changed from, I was charging $50, $100 for an hour with me, and that's definitely not the case anymore.
I love this. Yes. Yeah. So good. Congratulations,
Thank you.
The way. I love hearing the story. And so your breakthrough moment went from being a teacher to making the leap, and the scary leap into the unknown, and you've now made more income.
Oh, gosh.
You have more freedom. Are you having more fun?
Oh, so much more fun.
Yeah. And then you got married?
I got married, yeah. I got married about 6 months ago now.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes. And he's also an entrepreneur, which I think is key for, it's a kind of like a pillar of our relationship, is that we're both entrepreneurs. And he owns 3 businesses, and there's a lot of inspiration that I get from him in the way he handles his business. And
absolutely.
I talk about this a lot, but watching Ryan run Serhant and then listening and watching my husband run his businesses, there's a lot of things that I know I can learn from men in the way that they run businesses. And when I began to kind of take on some of those things, I realized the difference in my business. Like, I feel like men are much better at just naturally saying, like, this is what it is. Mm-hmm. Where I know that in the past I've been like, oh, well, we could do this or we could do that, and try to be super accommodating. And where I found the most success in my business is when I'm just like, this is it. Mm-hmm. And
I respect that, actually. But I don't think it's just a male versus female. I think that in business, and as the higher you go in business, there's less people that look like us in the industry. And so you guys were saying something on your podcast one day about how you would be in, I don't know if it was you or Kat, I think it was you, maybe it was Kat, I can't remember, but somebody said, I remember being in like a board meeting and apologizing for what I was about to say. Like, I'm sorry, but I've done that. Yeah. It resonated with me because, it was like, I didn't have the voice and the confidence that I do today. And then that's mentorship. It's like watching, and you're observing how you would behave, how somebody else is behaving, and then you're implementing. And I think that that's important for people to do. And again, it's like being surrounded by amazing people, and you've surrounded yourself with the right people. How did How did it turn out that you ended up working with Sirhan? So they found you.
They used to host a Clubhouse room.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay.
And it was so funny because my friend Ray Ellen asked a question in the Clubhouse room, and he was asking like the Sirhan team, who was like, they were the panel. And
I remember Clubhouse.
Yeah, you remember Clubhouse, right? I love Clubhouse. It changed my career, honestly, the networking that happened there. And then instead of letting the Sirhan team answer, I raised my hand and I answered my friend Ray's question. And the president of Sirhan Ventures was in my DMs right after that. And that's kind of how that happened. Yeah. And that was, honestly, it was a scary moment. And I like to talk about it, even though I'm like a little hesitant to talk about it sometimes. I like to talk about it because I just know someone is at that place right now where they need to make that decision and they're not feeling totally confident, but they just need to do it anyways.
100%. And join the conversation. I mean, like whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, join the conversation in the DMs, in the post, like I never forget when somebody comments on a post. So I want to engage there, in the DMs. We're here because of DMs, So I really love this. Now let's talk about, I want to shift gears into what you do from a branding perspective. And because I think this part, I know I missed it and I don't know that I could really go back and change it. But if somebody there are people with money.
Yes.
There are people who have marketing budgets. Mm-hmm. And there are people who look at that money and say, I know I have to spend X amount and I'm going to go buy leads with it. Or I'm going to go call a real estate agent and I'm going to partner with them on Zillow and I'm going to pay for their marketing budget so that if they're winning, then maybe I get a few deals, right? And what they're doing is they're not building who they are as an individual and a brand. And so you come in and you help people with this. And for me, I'm gonna just kind of give you an overlay because I really believe in this process, and then I want you to kind of pull it apart. I believe that in order to build your brand, you first have to do some internal work of understanding what your values are. And then once you understand what your values are, then you got to figure out who are you serving? Yep. Like your avatar, who your target audience is. And then you got to now build a marketing plan around that piece of it. And I think people they go and buy scripts.
Yes.
And then they just start reading scripts and they go on camera and there's no passion behind it. And so luckily some people evolve and they figure out their mission. Yep. But then some people just stay stuck in just reading a script or developing a script. And I'm in that category. Like I will develop a script and then I get in front of a camera and I read it. And it's like, we were just talking the other day. I was like, that doesn't feel good anymore. Yeah. I don't like that. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I don't like that anymore. It just doesn't feel authentic. So tell me for you, like, how do you take somebody through your process of building their brand? For someone that's listening, that's like, I need this. I don't have a brand. How do you help them through the process?
There's so many different things there. One, whether you know you have a brand or not, you have one. Mm-hmm. And either you build your brand with intention or one is just assigned to you. Okay. Because people already have ideas in their mind of who you are and what you represent. Mm-hmm. And you either put those ideas in their mind by what you decide to share and how you decide to act and show up, or you just willy-nilly act and show up and let them think whatever they want to think. Mm-hmm. And so I like to take ownership of my brand, and I like my clients to take ownership of their brand and say, if I want people to believe X, then I have to show them, right? And so that's kind of how we backwards map your brand. So I like to tell this silly story, but one time I was at a women's event in Las Vegas. I was just an attendee, and I was watching these people speak on stage. And it was probably in my early years of entrepreneurship. And I was like, I want to speak on stage. I want to host events like this. And during the lunch break, I went up on the stage and I just sat in a chair kind of like this and had a little microphone and had my friend take a picture. And I didn't really think anything of it. And then I was like, I'm going to post this, because it was kind of like I'm posting my vision board essentially, mm-hmm. right? And so I posted it, and within a couple weeks, I got my first paid speaking gig because someone saw me as a speaker.
That's amazing. That's right? Manifestation.
That's manifestation. Yeah. And it's also like, it was the first time that I realized, what I show them mm-hmm. impacts what they believe about me. And so that's why every time I'm at the airport, I'm like, I'm at the airport again. Here's my airport outfit. Like, I'm flying to South Carolina. I'm flying to San Francisco. I'm flying to New York. I will tell you what I'm doing. And I'm saying this because some people are listening who are doing a lot of really cool shit and they're not showing us. Just like your friend that you were talking about earlier, right? Like, he's awesome, but no one online would know that. And I like to think about, okay, I could impact the 100 people that I'm going to be standing in front of in South Carolina next Friday, or thousands of people can see me doing this online because I decided to take a picture, because I decided to tell the story in a video form. And it takes me almost no time. I'm doing it while I'm there. 30 seconds before I get on stage, I will get on my story and say, I'm about to go on stage, and this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And that's could potentially be your next gig, right?
And yesterday I was in bed and I said, I'm booking my plane ticket to South Carolina right now, and I'm going to be talking about branding and marketing. And someone in my DMs this morning said, can you do that at my place? Can you come to us and do that? Because I shared it.
Yeah.
And so what I like to do with my clients when it comes to branding is figure out who they are. And the 3 questions I like to start with are, who are you? Who do you serve? And how do you serve them? And most people don't know the answer to any of those. And it sounds like it's a 5-minute exercise, but it's really an exercise that's going to take you weeks or perhaps months to figure out, well, who am I?
Yeah, I know somebody who went through your questionnaire, and they were like, it took them like 2 hours to really like get away from their family, get away from their business, and really just go internal to figure out who they were. And I will venture to guess that when this is over, their business will double because of the intention they're putting around their reputation and their brand.
Yeah, easily double.
Yeah.
And so many people are just like trying to get the next thing. I call it the hamster wheel when you're saying, paying for leads, because you're going to stay on that hamster wheel.
You're a vendor
forever,
at that point. Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no opportunity for you to get off of that, because the minute you stop buying leads, drought, right? And so what I like to do is help my clients to spend their money intentionally when they're thinking about growing their brand, so they can learn how to convey their message, connect to the right people. They learn how to leverage social media. They learn how to network with the right people so that their brand is working while they sleep.
Love that.
Your
brand is working while you sleep, and you help people do that.
I help people do that.
So how does that work with, you work for, what does Ryan call himself? The greatest?
The greatest real estate broker, like all the world, something like that.
So, and I believe that he is like, but if you think about the
Sirhan brand,
if you think about the Sirhan brand, I remember that. But if I was moving to New York, I would get Sirhan to do my deal, right? Because he's celebrity-like, and he is a celebrity, like a legit celebrity. And the fact that you have access because he's like doing deals, and so that's what people should want. That's what they should elevate to, is to build a brand that people feel like, I don't care about your price because I know you're good.
Ooh, you know what? I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. Someone was like, well, I have to respond to this person like right this second. And I was like, why? You don't have to. Do you think that Ryan responds right that second to every person? No, but they'll wait because they believe that he's good enough. And if you act like you are not worthy of someone waiting an hour to hear back from you, that's an internal problem.
Yes.
And I'm helping people to build up the confidence in their brand to know that you're worth the wait. I'm not saying not to communicate with your clients. I'm just saying that if something else is going on, you are not feeling like you're losing someone.
Yes. And by the way, like, you talk to any top producer, we went through phases where we felt like if you did not respond immediately, they're going to find somebody else. So what branding does for you, it helps you build your brand. It helps you build your brand so that you're so good and people know you're so good that they're willing to wait. And I think that comment right there is the best comment, because we all go through it. Like, if I don't return a call for an employee, I'm like, well, they're going to quit because somebody else is willing to take the call.
It's also about communication, right?
It's all of that.
So if you build a brand that people know, like, and trust, they will wait. And if you are a good communicator and you say, hey, when I'm with clients, I like to be fully present. When I'm not with clients, I check my messages and get back to you. If you prepare your people with 100%. What that cadence is, since they trust you, they're not worried that you're not getting back to them.
100%. I totally agree with that. And, you know, and when you're good, you're good. I mean, like,
exactly.
I'll text, like, my phone was ringing a second ago because I usually go on Do Not Disturb, but I forgot to do that. And, like, whoever that is, they know I'm going to call them right back, right?
Yes.
You know, so I think people, you know, you just got to build that brand where people trust and they're willing to wait. But it goes so much deeper than that. And I think, you know, if for anybody that's out there building content, ask yourself this question. Do you know who your audience is? Do you know who you are? And if the answer is no, then you really should consider talking to someone like Candice who can really help, you know, focus, like take all of the information that's in your head and really focus it in on how do we intentionally build your brand. And so I want to thank you because I saw you were in Scottsdale. This is really funny, but I saw she was in Scottsdale walking down the street and I said, "You're in Scottsdale. Let's do a podcast." And 2 days later, we're sitting here live, and you fly out today, right?
I'm driving back actually
cool.
On Saturday, so I'm here for a while.
Cool. Okay, well, awesome. I'm so glad that we got a chance to do this because I've been wanting to do this. You're amazing. I hope that we continue to collaborate together.
Absolutely.
I know that there's, you know, really good synergy there. I'm so proud of what you're doing and to watch it from the sidelines. And, you know, I hope to become a client. And I hope that people that work with me will become a client. People listening to this will become a client because I think you're that good. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Chris. This is
awesome. Thank you so much. And everybody follow Candice on
Instagram, Candice Carcioppolo, everywhere. CandiceCarcioppolo.com, Candice Carcioppolo on Instagram.
There you go.
And I'll be in my DMs.
We will post this too when we link it. We'll put we'll put all of her information in there so you can contact her and connect with her, follow her on Instagram. Thank you guys for listening and have a wonderful day.